Good evening. Welcome to the 2021 Pennsylvania Farm Show, and thank you for joining our Cultivating Tomorrow panel series. Tonight's panel is Cultivating Impact, where we will discuss the Pennsylvania Farm Bill, the first state-level farm bill of its kind, and its impact across the Commonwealth. I'm Katie McLaughlin, an executive assistant here at the Department of Agriculture, and I'll be facilitating tonight's conversation. As the agriculture industry continues to grow and evolve, it must be supported in new ways to ensure its future success. The Pennsylvania Farm Bill was Governor Tom Wolf's bold, aggressive, and necessary investment in Pennsylvania agriculture to grow opportunities and resources, remove barriers to entry, and inspire future generations of agriculture leaders. With the support of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, this legislation was passed in 2019, and funding was given again for the 2020-2021 budget. Tonight's panel will focus on recipients of Pennsylvania Farm Bill grants and how these programs have helped their operations. Throughout tonight's discussions, viewers can also ask questions to our panelists through the Facebook chat. Joining us this evening is Agriculture Secretary Russell Redding, Senator Elder Vogel, Chairman of the Pennsylvania Senate Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee, Senator Judy Schwenk, Minority Chairwoman of the Pennsylvania Senate and Agriculture Rural Affairs Committee, Ash Richards, Urban Agriculture Director of the City of Philadelphia, Jareem Peachy, Educator with the Erie School District, Bo Ramsberg, owner of Rutland Farms, and Lori Daitner, Vice President of Program Development of Dawn Services. At this time, I'm going to toss it over to Secretary Redding for a few opening remarks.
Hey, Katie, good evening. Thank you for the introduction. It's great to see this panel. It's wonderful to be with you and look forward to the discussion tonight. And to all of those who are joining us tonight, you're going to be impressed with what you hear, what you see, and the people who are making Pennsylvania agriculture work. Welcome as well to this farm show. It's the first virtual farm show in 105 years. We've had a lot of fun trying to pack 1 million square feet of the farm show complex into the programming, and I hope you get a chance to take a look at it in addition to tonight. Our theme this year is Cultivating Tomorrow, and it's a theme that we put a lot of thought into, as we normally do, but this one was particularly important to us because we wanted something that really expressed the aspiration that we all have for that day when we regain some of those freedoms and some of the daily life and traditions that we all want. But it also had to express the hope that we see in tomorrow and the actions required to have that be achieved. This Pennsylvania Farm Bill is a bipartisan, bicameral legislative achievement. It includes our rural and urban, the young and the old, the plant and animal, conventional and organic, the farmer and the consumer. It's truly a comprehensive package that is reflective of our strength and our diversity as a Commonwealth. This historic initiative has served as a catalyst to reinvigorate the entrepreneurial spirit of agriculture by making strategic investments in an industry that is very far-reaching and important, of course, to the lives and the livelihoods of Pennsylvanians, as we have witnessed in the last 10 months. When the Farm Bill passed in 2019, we knew it was a victory for agriculture. What we didn't know was what was coming in 2020. The coronavirus pandemic arrived in this Commonwealth with the devastating effects that we have all witnessed across the state. While our lives have been changed and our daily routines have been uprooted, agriculture did not stop. It did not take a day off. The panelists that you'll hear tonight are some of the folks who helped us navigate through this pandemic. Teachers who kept teaching, farmers who kept farming, elected officials who upheld the call of public service. And the fact that these investments were made through the Pennsylvania Farm Bill helped in any way to get us to where we are today on the recovery side. It's a humbling thought. So I look forward to the discussion tonight. Thank you all for being with us and helping us cultivate that tomorrow that we all desire. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Secretary Redding. Tonight we're joined by champions of Pennsylvania agriculture, two of which we're proud to call friends in the Pennsylvania General Assembly. Senator Vogel, would you like to share a few remarks?
Sure. Thank you very much, Katie. Appreciate it. Glad to see everyone here tonight. Secretary, thanks for the invitation to be on the panel with you here tonight. And I have my good friend, Senator Judy Swank, here with us tonight, the Minority Chair of the Ag Committee. Judy, good to see you as well tonight. And, so also, like I said, it's great to have the panel together and be able to do this. It's kind of strange not walking around the farm show and having a milkshake, but this will have to do, I guess, for this year. But anyhow, yeah, like the Secretary said, nearly 2 years ago, we enacted historic legislation, the Pennsylvania Farm Bill, and it did a lot to encourage farmers to do other things that get involved in the hemp, as well as other things for dairy and other farming as it goes along across the state. Because of our rich agriculture heritage we have, there's so much to do. And as you go to the farm show, you know there's thousands and thousands of exhibits to see and everything like that. So but I look forward to the discussion we're having here this evening and the other aspects of the industry. And we'll enjoy the farm show virtually, I guess. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Vogel. Senator Schwank, a few remarks?
Of course. Thank you, Katie. Hello, everyone. Quite an illustrious panel you put together, Secretary Redding. And you know, it's interesting. If there's one thing farmers know how to do, it's how to make do, right? So here we are, and the entire agriculture community actually does it as well. We're having our farm show online, virtually. And actually, it's kind of an interesting format, and it's giving us opportunities to do things and learn things in different ways, maybe than we ever have. So I'm pleased with what's happened, and I'm very pleased to be a part of this panel to talk about the Pennsylvania Farm Bill. You know, I get an opportunity to meet with other legislators in other states. When we talk about the fact that we had a farm bill in Pennsylvania, they're used to hearing something from USDA, right? From the feds. And here we are. And, you know, when I tell them about all the aspects of it, they get pretty excited. And I fully expect that some other states are actually going to be adopting something like our Pennsylvania Farm Bill. You know, I was so proud to support it and to work with Senator Vogel and our counterparts over in the House to help make this a reality when it initially passed, and now in the second year as well. And, you know, as I reflect back on 2020 and the impacts of the Farm Bill, Secretary, I think the light bulb moment was when I started getting phone calls from consumers about milk being dumped, about, you know, the articles that were in the newspaper that folks saw and read about, and they could not just grasp that you can't take milk directly from the farm necessarily right to the consumer, and the issue of school milk and what happened with restaurants and so forth. So I think a lot of people finally focused on where our food comes from, how it gets to us, and how important it is to every segment of our society and every way that it's produced too. Not just about the traditional farm that we think about, but the urban agriculture, you know, the other things that are so critical to the breadth and depth of Pennsylvania agriculture. So I hope tonight will be another one of those light bulb moments for all those who participate with us tonight and listen and ask questions about, you know, what's happening in Pennsylvania agriculture and how the Farm Bill will evolve from here in order to continue to serve all of us in the agriculture community and all of our consumers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Schwank. I have to say, one of my favorite parts of living in Pennsylvania is the diversity of Pennsylvania agriculture. And it was really important that our Pennsylvania Farm Bill was zip code neutral. Secretary Redding, can you tell us how the Pennsylvania Farm Bill programs were successful in achieving this statewide impact?
Hey, Katie, thank you. Yeah, I'd love to. I'll keep this brief just because there's a lot we could say. But, you know, when I think about the diversity that you spoke of, you know, we saw that in all of the applications, right? We were able to reach every county of Pennsylvania had applicants. Almost every county had was awarded, a grant or a viability, grants, a school grant somewhere. And I think when we approached the legislature, that was sort of the goal, right? We wanted to go out and close the gaps, but also bring in all of Pennsylvania and respect that and reflect that in what we were doing. We have seen grants for new and beginning farmers and first generation. We've had applicants who have farmed for 50 years who are applicants to the Farm Bill. So it's just a really nice sort of story, and being able to administer about $23 million in funding for Pennsylvania agriculture is really important. What we've also learned, these grants, regardless of where you are, they respect the agriculture that's essential in that community. A lot has happened, a lot of success there. So thank you, Kate.
Thank you. As Secretary Redding had outlined, one area of agriculture that continues to grow throughout the Commonwealth is urban agriculture. Ash, can you share with us the impact of the Pennsylvania Farm Bill Urban Agriculture Grant on your work with the City of Philadelphia?
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, first, before I begin, just a big thank you to the Department of Agriculture's team for inviting me and working on this really cool panel. And also, of course, good to see you again, Secretary Redding, and all the panelists. So again, my name is Ash Richards. I'm the Director of Urban Agriculture at Parks and Recreation. And I run the Farm Philly program, which is the official urban agriculture program at Parks and Rec. The PA Farm Bill Urban Ag Grant, I think, has had a great impact on our work within Philadelphia, primarily because it contributed to our Community Compost Network program, which was launched in 2019 and has to deal with waste, of course, in our food system. So I'm sure everybody here is well aware of compost and why it's important, or composting. And this program is directly targeting that aspect of our food system on the community level. So just a little bit of background. The program includes supporting around 12 sites across the city. We have schools, community gardens, farms, and different types of sites within the network. And we construct and provide 12 by 4 by 4 composting bins. So they're very big, very large. They're going to last for a really long time. And we built those in partnership with PowerCore PHL. We also provide supplies like sifters and thermometers, pitchforks, etc., because we love to emphasize that folks have to have two sets of tools to do composting because of the pathogen implications addressed with composting. And so we essentially provide the tools, the training, and education that is needed to run something like that. And the program, the Urban Agriculture Grant Program, went to supporting all of those different aspects of our programs. And I think that essentially with the program, we are asking residents and communities to come in and be invited to bring their food waste and yard waste to these sites, which is pretty amazing thing that we could offer in the city. It's a publicly run program, and so to be able to use this grant to purchase all of those things, to build the things that are necessary to do that, has been, I think, monumentally pretty amazing. And I think that Parks and Rec wants residents to know, especially when the program gets rebooted this year. We had to kind of take a break last year because of COVID. We essentially want folks to know that this type of grassroots approach to waste or to composting has a direct impact on neighborhoods and landfills and waste, and it allows residents to participate in food scraps and waste and work with urban farmers and gardeners on producing a soil amendment that's actually pretty critical to the work that we do. And we also tie this work to environmental justice and have conversations about trash and litter in neighborhoods, which is a priority and should be a priority in Philadelphia. And lastly, we use composting in this work to build community power and self-determination through composting. And so again, we were able to use that grant to leverage those supplies. And lastly, we were able to use that grant to leverage another grant from the USDA. If you all remember, I think it was last year, of course, the USDA released for the first time the Community Compost and Food Waste Reduction Initiative. And also that came out of the Urban Agriculture Innovation Office. And so we were able to acquire that grant as well because we were able to get that initial seed funding, pun intended, from this grant that was coming out of the PA Farm Bill.
Thank you. And I would be remiss without saying that the city of Philadelphia is one of the few cities in the nation with an urban agriculture director. So thank you for your continued efforts, and we know Philly's in good hands, so thank you.
Absolutely.
My next question is for Doreen. Doreen, can you tell us about your work with the Erie School District and your approach to engage urban youth in agriculture? And it looks like you're on mute, Doreen.
Thank you, Katie. My name is Doreen Petrie, and I am the Sustainability Coordinator for the Erie School District Plan called BELONG, and BELONG stands for Becoming Empowered by Living Our Natural Gifts. And throughout the years, we have conducted a number of initiatives. We've looked at waste reduction and recycling, energy conservation, watershed quality, but our focus lately in the past 7 or 8 years has been garden and agricultural educational programs. So we manage 13 gardens in the district, all 10 elementary schools and all 3 middle schools. And whenever we do a program, our focus is always on nutrition. So teaching students to make healthy choices when it comes to food, thinking about the environment, of course, using water and soil and other resources very effectively, thinking about how it mitigates climate change, and of course the economic advantage, growing your own food, buying local, and helping families, especially in this past year. And community service is really important to us. For example, we didn't have our energetic worker bees this growing season, and we really missed them. We couldn't have any students in our school gardens. And so we had adults really step up. We work with 20 to 25 Penn State Master Gardeners, and we have for a number of years, but we had neighbors and families and friends help us take care of the gardens. And we donated 1,551 pounds of food to our mostly school families by putting that produce out when there were food distributions at our schools, and the families were very grateful, and giving it to our neighbors too. We also are always working on a pre-K to grade 12 horticulture pathway, a vertical alignment of our agriculture and garden programs. In the elementary schools, we have many programs, and those are mostly grade level programs, after school and summer programs that match up with the curriculum. So for example, the 3rd graders plant the gardens because they have a plant growth and development science module. In middle school, it's more course driven. So we try to tap into the STEM initiative, the STEM courses, and the family and consumer science courses. Now, one thing we did that was different this year, we originally had hoped to have students harvest produce from the gardens in middle school in the family and consumer science classes and cook with those, develop recipes, cook with that produce. We couldn't do that. So we identified families that wanted to cook at home. So we sent those recipes home, and we had a lot of fun, very entertaining Zoom meetings, finding out how they really navigated those recipes and who liked the vegetable soup. And the one young man, he was really funny. They had an apple crisp recipe with those like croissant rolls on the bottom for the crust. And he said everyone loved it. He was going to make it for Christmas too. And I said, well, put some red and green sprinkles on there and you can make it very festive. And then in our high school, well, also in the middle schools, we have garden clubs too. In the high school, we have a landscape management and greenhouse operations type of coursework. So the Farm Bill really helped us out. We were fortunate enough to receive and be awarded 3 Farm Bill grants. So one of them helped us purchase materials for one of our greenhouses to increase our productivity. They plant and grow all of our tomato and pepper plants, starter plants for all of our gardens. The second grant helped us install our 13th garden at one of our middle schools and begin a program with a group called the New Americans. And those are students that come from immigrant families. And that's something we've wanted to do for years, is really tap into those agricultural communities and people that have come from agricultural societies, how we could learn from them. We just started off and then March hit us, but we hope to continue that. But we were able to develop a beautiful middle school garden. And lastly, we have another grant that allows for field trips for one grade level at all 10 of our elementary schools, the grade level of that school's choice. I don't know that we will actually be able to go on field trips this year. If we will not, we will be making virtual field trips. We may even do a live feed from some of these off-site locations. So I'm very thankful for the grants, because in an urban district, and I'm sure this is the case in many districts, funding is always an issue. And so this was a wonderful opportunity for the Erie School District. Thank you.
Thanks, Doreen. And just to recap for everyone, the Erie School District received an Urban Ag Grant, a Farm to School Grant, and an Ag and Youth Grant. So we know those dollars are going to good work for students in the Erie School District. Senator Vogel, you've been a champion for younger people in agriculture through your sponsorship of the Beginning Farmer Tax Credit, which is now available for claim. Can you share with the audience how this credit works?
Yes, I can, Katie. I would be glad to do that for you. This piece of legislation came into being. We sort of kind of copied it off of the state of Minnesota after they'd had such a great success with it. But obviously, it's the graying of the farmers in Pennsylvania as well as across the nation. I think the average farmer in Pennsylvania is now 58 or 59 years old, and we need to bring on a younger generation. And so many of the young kids in our farms went off to college and never came back because their parents discouraged them from coming back because you can't make a living on a farm, so go find a real job and do something else in the world. But we realized that there are a lot of young people that do want to come back to the farm, and by having a beginning farmer tax credit that we put together, it enables farmers who want to lease or sell their property to a beginning farmer to be able to do that, but get a tax credit back. For instance, if you the sale price of fair market value of agricultural land, you can get up to $32,000 in a tax credit. If you sell it, you can get 10% of the gross rental income for the first, second, and third year of a lease on a property. If you lease it to someone, was a maximum of $7,000. And so an individual, certified as a beginning farmer, they have to complete forms and applications with the Department of Economic Development. To do that, then you have to do that, because this isn't just something that's free. As you're going to have fair market value in your property and all that kind of things like that. But then the seller or the leaser must also qualify to apply for a DCED grant, because we want to have everything's above board. They have to work with the IRS and the state tax people and everything like that to do this. But obviously, it's a great program. I think it's been being used a little bit, but obviously, I want to let people know that the tax credit is on a first come, first served basis. So if you're interested in this program, please get your applications in as quick as you can, because it's not based on a calendar year. It's based on the $5 million that we have. So if you use up to $5 million in 3 months, it's gone until next year. But obviously, I want to thank my colleagues in the Senate and in the House as well for believing in agriculture. The legislature in Pennsylvania has always been very ag friendly, I believe, and we obviously did a great job on getting this piece of legislation put together. Thank the governor and Secretary Redding as well for their input on this as well. And it's a great piece of legislation. Hopefully this will help some beginning farmers in Pennsylvania, some older farmers who want to slow down or retire, or give them a little bit of a tax break and give a beginning farmer a leg up, because that's the biggest complaint we always hear across the country is you either inherit land or you marry land. There's no, you can't get land. That's the biggest impediment to farming is the ability to have land to farm. So being able to do this, I think, is a great program, and hopefully we'll see great benefits from it here in the near future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will say to our viewers listening, you can actually find these resources on the Department of Agriculture website on our New and Beginning Farmer page. You go to agriculture.pa.gov. One sector that has attracted a lot of new and experienced farmers is the industrial hemp industry. Lori, can you talk about your work in industrial hemp and how the Commonwealth Specialty Crop Block Grant has furthered your efforts?
Sure, Katie, I'd be happy to. I'm really excited to be part of this panel and be able to share our story and tell you about the work that we're doing and how the specialty crop block grants have helped support that. I work for a group of companies, the Dawn group of companies, and our work in industrial hemp is with Dawn Processing, which is a decortication startup located in far western Pennsylvania. As I said, Dawn is a group of companies, 7 in total. We're mostly nonprofits, and our first nonprofit was launched in 2002. We work in 9 counties. We work in several different sectors, and we employ over 1,000 people. Our founder, Chris Lloyd, was always interested in the environment, sustainability, and he always thought that hemp, and particularly hemp fiber, might be a very good opportunity for farmers in our area to add a crop to their rotation. And with decortication, which is the process by which you process the hemp stalks into bast fibers and hurd, would be a way to create more jobs. And so he got into growing hemp. So we know that industrial hemp has many uses. There are construction materials like hempcrete and hemp wool batting insulation and hemp wood. It can be used as a concrete reinforcement in bioplastics, in paper and packaging. But those markets exist and are growing, but they're not really existing here yet. And so in order for us to invest in a decortication facility, we found ourselves in the position of working in 2 different directions. One direction is to help build those markets and work with end user companies. And the other was to help farmers learn to grow after such a long hiatus of not being able to. Now, it's kind of a chicken and egg. Companies need a solid domestic supply. Farmers need time and support to learn to grow it. They're not going to grow it unless someone's going to buy it. Mm-hmm. So these specialty crop block grants are going to be of tremendous help for us. We launched a hemp fiber test acres program in 2019. We started with 1 farmer growing 1 variety on 4 acres, and we had a miserable result. So we took some time. We did a lot of research and learning, and we brought experts in. We certainly got a lot of support from Dr. Alyssa Collins and Justin Brackenrich from Penn State Extension. And we expanded the program in 2020 to include 6 farmers, 4 here in Pennsylvania, 2 in Ohio. And we had a tremendously different result. Our hemp stands, although we had to start planting late due to late supply of seeds delivery, our stands reached anywhere from 7 to 10 feet tall. And very little weed pressure, very healthy plants, nice harvest. So we hope to expand the program much further, and the grant that we got for that particular project, we call it Project Western PA Hemp Fiber, will help us do that. We're going to be adding more farmers and adding more acres and hopefully testing 4 different varieties this year versus the 2 that we managed to do last year. The other grant that we received is for Project PA Hemp Home. As I said, we found ourselves in the position where we have to try to drive and promote end-use markets. Now, we are in a region where there are a lot of plastics companies, so we are working with them to test hemp fiber in their products. But another area that we're trying to really move forward is with hemp-based construction materials. Now, we're founding members of the U.S. Hemp Building Association, and along with all of our other members, we've put our shoulder to the wheel to figure out, okay, how can we increase awareness and have acceptance into the ICC or by the ICC, the International Construction Code, or International Code Council. So what we have done is we have purchased a blighted property in Newcastle. It happens to be in an area where our residential construction company works to create and renovate old homes and build new, accessible, affordable housing. And within that program, we found one property that was really suitable because of its size and its location. So we purchased that. We will be this April taking it down to the studs, recasting it completely with hempcrete. That will be done in collaboration with Cameron McIntosh, who is the principal and owner of Americhaume LLC, based in Allentown. So another Pennsylvania person or company collaborating with us. We'll recast it in hempcrete. We will be using hempwood flooring in the project, and that hempwood flooring is coming from some of our Pennsylvania harvest from 2020. So they're making that flooring right now in Kentucky. And we'll be using hemp wool batting insulation in the attic. So that's fiber batting insulation that you can install with your bare hands, as opposed to fiberglass, which you would need pretty much a hazmat suit to do. So that project will be a showcase for hemp building materials. And we're also collaborating with the Pennsylvania Housing Research Center out of Penn State University to conduct research on the hempcrete. That will go to adding to building the case along with our other members of the U.S. Hemp Building Association to get ASTM standards written, accepted, and then again, going further with a submission to the ICC. So we're extremely grateful for those grants that we've received. We'll be using it, as I said, to expand the hemp takers program and to pay for that research and testing by Pennsylvania Housing Research Center. And we hope that this showcase will really raise awareness among Pennsylvania builders to start using hemp-based materials. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. It's amazing how agriculture transcends industries and we're able to use climate-smart agriculture with climate-smart building products. It's really something exciting for the future, so thank you for sharing with us. Another sector that we've really seen a need for expansion is the small meat processing industry. Bo, Rutland Farms received a small meat processing grant before COVID-19. Can you talk about the grant's effects on your operation both pre and during COVID?
Hi, Katie. First, thanks to Secretary Redding and the department for inviting me to sit on this panel. It's really great to be with fellow supporters and friends of agriculture. Yeah, just as a quick background about what we are and what we do, I own and operate Rutland Farm, which began life as a small kind of pasture-based livestock and poultry farm. And over the past 10 years or so, we've, by necessity and kind of out of desire, we've become involved in the meat processing business as well, kind of as a necessary avenue to market the products that we produce. And we've slowly just added different levels, or probably different levels of complication, initially seeking USDA inspection for poultry slaughter, which is a pretty rare thing for to be done on a small scale, and especially on farm on a small scale. And then since that time, we've just slowly been adding building blocks to that USDA inspection program that we have to further kind of add value to our products. And then along the way, we discovered that there were a lot of other small farms out there who needed processing services because there are so few opportunities for processing as a service in Pennsylvania on a small scale. There's a lot of meat processing in Pennsylvania, but most of it is captive to certain companies, and it's not done for outside businesses. And so that was the direction that we were headed, and that we've been headed when the small meat processors grant came out. And we chose to use the small meat processors grant to kind of expand in two ways, really. The first way is not very exciting or not very sexy, I guess you'd say, but it's a must-have for meat processors, and that's refrigeration. So the first phase of the grant helped us to expand our cold storage capacity by probably about 200% over where we were before. And that proved to be a very timely addition given the COVID. The other thing that we did was We purchased some equipment to further add value to meat produced by us and by other farms, including the smokehouse, which is behind me. This room was the largest piece of the grant that we received. It helped us to build out this room, install this smokehouse, which of course makes delicious things like smoked turkey and bacon and all the things that we all love to eat, hopefully sparingly. But this was kind of the crown jewel of what we were able to accomplish with the grant. To go back and answer your question, before and after COVID, and kind of the ironies of life, we had not done any work, any work with the grant funds before COVID struck. Literally the day that mandatory lockdowns began in March was the day that I signed the final contracts with contractors to start. So we signed the contracts and then we were idled for about 10 or so weeks. Then in about the middle of May, we started to complete some portions of the project, specifically the cold storage that I mentioned, and then to purchase some machinery that we were to use to add value, namely a sausage machine, a sausage stuffer. Both of these additions came just in time to help us bear an incredible workload that came to us as a result of COVID and the shutdowns. We saw a huge jump in the need for custom processing from other farms as a result of the skyrocketing demand for meat from those farms in the early days of the pandemic, as traditional supply chains were challenged and disrupted due to COVID. So the grant funds for that first phase helped us to be able to take in a much larger volume of meat from other farms for processing at that critical time, and then to also add value to those products beyond just kind of raw processing. Like I mentioned, the last phase of the project, which was the USDA inspected smokehouse and smoke program, we literally just completed that last Tuesday. We had our USDA certification exactly 8 days ago. So we're really excited to kind of have that done and have that behind us. And we have actually begun processing USDA inspected smoke products in the last 7 days, ironically for other farms again. So I think that the grant has just done amazing things for us. We're really proud to live in Pennsylvania where ag and food is priority, and folks like the secretary and the governor, the legislature have made us feel like what we're doing is important work and have kind of put their money where their mouth is to support us. So thank you.
Thank you, Bo, and congratulations on that USDA certification. That's a big win. Senator Schwenk, our next question is for you. Can you talk more about the efforts made by the General Assembly and the administration to help farms during the coronavirus pandemic?
Sure. Thank you, Katie. But first, let me say how exciting it is to hear these stories come to life of how the funds that we allocated as a legislature, what a difference they've made. And there are so many more stories that can be told. This is very exciting. Something that we'll have to share with our fellow legislators, Elder, about how well this worked. But at any rate, yes, that was one of the great things about the Farm Bill, is that we could pivot to help address some of the issues that COVID presented to us. And certainly food was a big one, wasn't it? I mentioned before about the fact of, farmers having to dump milk. So one of the things that we were able to do through the CARES Act funding that came through the federal government was to distribute about $8 million in direct payments to about 1,600 farmers, dairy farmers in the Commonwealth. Now, that may not have all been just about dump milk. It may have been other issues associated with, how COVID impacted them. So that was certainly one of the big things that we were able to do. Another thing that, we've all experienced, I think, was going to a supermarket and all the pasta was gone. There wasn't, some dairy product or something that we thought always was there before. Imagine how much more of a problem that may have been in communities that traditionally didn't always have access to fresh, healthy food, that didn't have the abundance that you see in some markets. I think that's one of the shames of, and things that we've got to address in agriculture is making sure that everybody has access to these fantastic foods that are available that you produce for us. So through the Pennsylvania Fresh Food Financing Initiative, COVID-19 Relief Fund, extra funds were apportioned particularly to communities that may have been underserved, communities of color, rural, suburban, urban, most certainly, where fresh foods may not have been as accessible, certainly before the pandemic, but as a result of this, even more was made of, it was extra effort was made available. They had extra funds so that they could purchase these things, maybe outside of the, different supply chains that they ordinarily do. We held a hearing, the Senate Democratic Policy Committee held a hearing, and we had some of the major producers, ag producers and processors talk about, some of the issues that they faced. And that, I think that will help us to address, some changes that we might need to see in the food system going forward. So those were some of the things that we were able to respond to, what COVID had, laid waste to. Maybe that's not the best words to describe it, but certainly the problems that were created by COVID. And they're still out there. For example, our schools are still not, many of them in session and, certainly consuming a lot of the milk that they did before. Restaurants, other vendors that serve large communities. They are, or large audiences, may not be using the amount of food that they were before. So we're still working to develop ways that we can continue to make those connections and assist our farmers.
Thank you. In some ways, I think COVID helped us identify or realize our flaws even within our food system. So when we're able to provide access and equity, it's a win all around, and it may be a challenge up front, but I think we've learned a lot and we've certainly grown from COVID over the past year. Secretary Redding, can you talk to us more about the 2020-2021 Pennsylvania Farm Bill? When can we expect to see those grants opening, and where can folks go to find more information?
Yeah, Katie, thank you. And it's been, sort of noticed and talked about tonight. I mean, there's certainly a lot of opportunity, but there's also a lot of need. So we're anxious to roll out the 2021 Farm Bill programs. We have funded for the most part. I mean, there's certainly a slight changes, 16 million in total funding that'll go out. I'm pleased to announce that we, this week during Farm Show, will open two of the programs. First, the state level specialty crop block grant at $500,000. And the other being the Ag and Youth grants, again, for $500,000. Both of those will open later this month and remain open through the 5th of March. And we're anxious. We feel the pressure. I mean, certainly discussion tonight sort of it's just further evidence that there's a need out there to keep moving, get the grant funding released, and get these projects moving. So we're anxious to unveil in the next couple of weeks the rest of those programs. How to find them? Go to watch us on Facebook. Go to the Department of Agriculture's website. That's the best place to get the latest in grant announcements.
Thank you, Secretary. And it looks like we do have a question that came in through Facebook. So the question to the group is, how has the pandemic changed your goals for the Farm Bill? Do you have new priorities or projects that you would like to see?
Yes.
Ash, how about you start us off? I see you
Yes.
nodding your head there.
Absolutely. It's a great question. I think that, well, I think Senator Schwenk, when you said walking into the grocery store and all the pasta was gone, I also had the same experience where I walked into one of the hardware stores, like one of the big name brand hardware stores, and all the seeds were gone. And then I went to the co-op, the local food co-op, and all the seeds were gone there too. And all the pots were gone, and all the topsoil or like soil bags were all gone. So I realized that as a public servant, as a department, we were working on a lot of programs that were responding to sort of a lot of the social needs around agriculture, and that includes like working with youth and doing education and training and so forth. But I think we have pivoted a lot to address food production now. And what does that look like for us in 2021? It looks like creating more public utilities, or what I'm calling public utilities. So the same way that you might have a utility for electricity or water, we want to have a utility for agriculture. What does that look like? It looks like providing tools, sort of a public library of tools for agriculture. It looks like having a seed library. And so we have been able to acquire some funding for that. Some initial infusion funding for that. But moving forward in 2021, if more grants come out, I absolutely would love to continue building this concept of the public utility for agriculture resources, where a resident who is just beginning to farm or doesn't have the financial resources to garden or farm can drive into one of our facilities and be able to get compost, which they can today, lumber from down trees in our system. We use that and plane it and turn it into lumber to build raised beds, tools, seeds, soil testing kits, you name it. That's something that we're working on right now.
Thank you. Other thoughts from the group?
Katie, if I could, some of the things that we have discovered throughout COVID, and we continue to try to be creative, is to reach out to families. And because we didn't have students in the buildings, we had to try to reinvent our activities. And I had mentioned cooking at home. We're in the process of developing growing kits to go home. And one of the advantages of this, one of the benefits of COVID, is that we've reached out to and connected with a whole nother group of people and found that people are delighted to work together as a family on some of these projects. The other thing we're doing, of course, as I mentioned earlier, is our field trips, where we might not be able to take students on buses. So we are doing some video lessons, which allows us to tap into local farms that we wouldn't normally have exposed the students to as large of a population as we might have. So those are some of the things that allow us to be creative and reach different groups of people, even our neighbors and in our communities. So those are the things we continue to do.
Thanks, Doreen. Any other final thoughts? Senator Schwenk?
Again, talking about food, I had the opportunity, and I'm sure you've all learned about it, so many more people are accessing our food banks, right, this year than ever had before. And in conversations with my food bank, they talked about how they use their cash up, what they planned on spending on food, literally in the first quarter of the year. And had it not been for Federal CARES Act and the state government allocating funds, kudos to Secretary Redding and the governor for allocating, much more funding to our food banks. But I'm thinking about, how do we fine tune that system? We know it exists. How do we make it so that people do get access to more fresh food? When I helped once at a food bank, I did it a couple times. One of the things I packed was lentils. My job was to pack 2 pounds of lentils into a box. And I thought to myself, my gosh, I cook a little bit, but I don't know that I would use 2 pounds of lentils in a year. And I thought about the young families that I've seen, and other, singles, older folks that are, just one person in the household. How do we better manage the system? That's one of the things I'd like to explore with the department and, with the legislature, maybe through hearings, Senator Vogel, to, try to determine what could we do better now that we know we had this extraordinary event in terms of the need for food. What could we do differently that would make that system better? Just a few thoughts there.
Those are great words. Thank you. Any others? Bo?
Yeah, I thought one thing that I thought may be worth considering, or one thing that would be beneficial across the whole state, kind of regardless of industry or geography. It was mentioned once before, I believe, about hemp and kind of the relearning the process of growing hemp and I'm sure processing it as well. And we kind of experienced the same thing in all facets of agriculture, I think. And so I would envision some kind of a program that would encourage an apprenticeship for different facets of the agriculture in Pennsylvania, be it a meat processor who, it is hard to find skilled labor that understands the real complexities of modern day meat processing, to hemp, to, even just traditional agriculture that has become highly technical and may not be able to just pull from a general population of laborers. So I would think the support for some type of an apprenticeship program would be really beneficial across a lot of facets.
Absolutely. Senator Vogel?
Yeah, I would just like to build on what Bo said there, and obviously what Secretary Redding has put together as well. We've worked together to put together workshops where young students come together to learn how to be a tractor mechanic, but you don't use a wrench anymore, you use a computer. And we've had those discussions with the Secretary many times as far as getting more young people involved into agriculture, as well as that you don't have, people think agriculture is milking cows and plowing a field. It's not that anymore. I mean, there's so many more things involved in agriculture. We can be involved, being a plants person, somebody growing plants, working on things like that, being a tractor mechanic, but you don't use a wrench, you use a computer. And all the precision planting and things they have going on. The equipment dealers across the country are just crying for people to know how to use a computer, because everything anymore is tied to a computer. The tractors computerized, their corn planters all have computers and GPS systems on them and things like that. So getting more young people involved, going to our schools and convincing them, or trying to convince them that agriculture is a very worthwhile endeavor and a worthwhile, place to work and make a good living in your lifetime is something to do. And also, as you saw through the pandemic, the small meat packers, we need to definitely step up the game, I think, as far as that goes, to help them out, because so many people, I have local people around me here that grow grass-fed beef and things like that, and they're waiting 2, 3, 4 months to get an animal in to get it butchered, and they have customers who want the meat, and they're trying to get, in to get them butchered, and they're being told 2, 3, 4 months to wait. So obviously that's a huge backup. That's a drain on their purse strings, because they're expecting to sell the beef now, to the consumers who are wanting it. Their freezers are empty and they're wanting to sell it, but they can't get the animals harvested in a timely fashion to do that. I think that's definitely another area we need to look at as far as agriculture women going forward, as well as just convincing people that to look for the PA Preferred logo, I guess, would be something I would say. Obviously, I have my fancy PA Preferred vest on here tonight, and but it is a thing. We've worked with St. Joe's University, and they've actually realized over time, the last few years here, that by doing surveys at the farm show and things like that, that people are realizing the PA Preferred logo and what it means. And farmers and farm markets and things like that have the PA Preferred logo. Hopefully people will look for them and support them more. The grow local, buy local is a big thing right now. And obviously the pandemic has helped push that along quite a bit, but obviously just look for the PA Preferred label as well to support the farmers who grow PA Preferred. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lori, any final thoughts?
Well, I guess the pandemic really, for me and all of us maybe, brought home the fact that we're really reliant on our supply chain. And when you have very large supply chains, they're vulnerable. And local and regional supply chains should be encouraged, supported to give a balance to mitigate those risks. We talk about buying our food locally, and that's becoming not just a trend, but more of a mainstream way of approaching your life. But we also want to get to the point where you're growing your home locally with hemp products that are grown by your neighbor. And so anything that we can do to incentivize companies to use those products here in Pennsylvania will certainly help solidify those local supply chains, and I think give us more security.
For sure. It looks like we're closing in on our time for this evening, so we're going to move into some closing remarks. Senator Schwenk, any closing thoughts for the group?
One, again, it was, so rewarding to learn the stories, the projects that all of you have implemented as a result of the Pennsylvania Farm Bill and all the different aspects of the bill. As Secretary Redding said, this injected about $23 million into, Pennsylvania agriculture, but those dollars generate more dollars as you start to create the different enterprises that you have been involved in or somehow help people in so many ways. So I'm very encouraged by what I heard tonight. I think that there are lots of opportunities available to us to expand on the Farm Bill. I look forward to discussions on what are some of the next aspects of the Farm Bill. It was a package of bills, not just one single piece of legislation. So what will we do to, continue to improve upon that? Agriculture matters in this state. It matters to the people of this Commonwealth. So we have a responsibility to continue to move forward on that. It matters to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Vogel, any final thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Katie. I would just like to sort of kind of piggyback on what Senator Swank said a little bit ago about it. It's great to see where your money goes and actually being put to a good use. We pass tons of legislation every day in Harrisburg, and we dole out millions of dollars every day, and you never see the benefit of or the fruits of your labor, I guess. But to just be on this panel tonight here and realize these 3 or 4 people on the panel here have done great things with the money, from having school gardens in Erie to growing hemp in Lawrence County in my district there. They've done a great job there, but also, composting and gardens in Philadelphia. So it's great to see that the money's being put to good use, and there are plenty of other places we can put more money to good use. I'm sure we have a lot of big issues coming up with the Chesapeake Bay situation. We need farmland preservation as well as more conservation issues and things like that to put more money into, as far as our money we need to put into the Chesapeake Bay situation to help remedify the problems we have with the pollution in the Susquehanna River as far as that goes and stuff. So there's a lot of these things we can do, but obviously this was a great panel tonight. And I want to thank everyone for being on it as well. And thank you for inviting me to be on, and thank you, Secretary, as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Secretary Redding, would you like to close us out for this evening?
I'd be honored to. As I was listening for the last hour, it really is so reassuring. We've heard words of, going into the cities and trying to figure out where to get seed, tools, and utilities and composting. And we've gone to, out on the farmland to talk about, what's happening in meat processing and into the schools. So the Farm Bill is doing exactly what we had envisioned it to do. And everybody knows the backstory, but it wasn't just by chance that we ended up with a group of bills that we did. They were all very strategically chosen and sort of supported out of an economic impact study that pointed a direction and further supported by the governor's sort of vision. And then to have it sort of opened up and amplified by the House and the Senate, and Republicans and Democrats and so many people. I take away from that, agriculture unifies us, right? The farm show unifies us. The Farm Bill unifies us. And I think every one of us can look at what is happening in our larger society and, hope for, think about what tomorrow looks like. And we tried to capture that in our theme. But I am so impressed that each of you have taken time. You've been the pioneers. You've pivoted to things you've had to do. It wasn't in the plan. And that is certainly reflective of what happened in agriculture. But when you can talk about generational farms and new Americans in the same hour, right? You have a really good feeling that we've done the right thing for Pennsylvania. And there's so much opportunity here for us to build on that. We've had a great track record, a couple of examples tonight, but the hundreds of people who are now part of agriculture, and to Bo's point, to feel appreciated, be recognized. Absolutely. That's what this is about. And if there was ever a year to be reminded that agriculture is important to both our food security, but also our national security, it is this year. And to have that building across Pennsylvania communities with all of the diversity that we respect and need is a really good feeling. So to each of our panelists, thank you. To Senator Schwank, thanks for your work, and Senator Vogel. It's been an honor to work with you on this, but also in the committee. You've been a great champion of many things, agriculture and food. But the final point is think seriously about what the next one looks like. What are the pieces that we have to pick up on, the lessons learned? But we'll do that together. That is part of in the theme of Cultivating Tomorrow. So thank you all for being with us. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy the Pennsylvania Farm Show. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
And just one last note for all of our viewers, to find the complete Farm Show schedule, visit farmshow.pa.gov. Thank you for joining us this evening, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.